Well, good evening, everybody. It's good to be here with you on this Zoom. Thanks to Mr. Purr and all the coaches for coming out and for the invitation. The original goal was to record this, but you know, the midst of quarantine and new babies and all that type of stuff, it just didn't happen. So I'm glad to be here live with you today. I think the format for my time is I'll share a few words, and then if there's any questions at the end, we'll take those questions. But I'm just going to jump right in. In an article in USA Football, a young man said coaches go above and beyond the call of duty. They do that to ensure that their teams are prepared with countless hours of film study and schematics instruction to simulate real-time game situations. They might be in the spotlight for 2 hours every Friday night, but their job requires around-the-clock effort. I want you to know that coaching is tough. The level of patience and understanding that your job requires, the tremendous responsibility in the shaping and molding of multiple generations of young people, the pressure of competition, of always wanting to win, striving for success, even sometimes more than your players. Coaching is tough. And when I say we, I'm speaking for those who would agree, we are grateful and thankful to have such committed and dedicated public servants to the people of Bensalem. From Trevose to the Valley, from Eddington to Croydon, and all of the areas in between. I applaud the work that you have done throughout your lives, because being a high school sports coach is not an easy proposition. Coaching is tough. I also applaud you for continuing with your responsibilities in such an unstable environment. There are some people who have varying opinions on the state of the lockdown throughout the Commonwealth, as well as throughout the nation. But we can't deny that thousands upon thousands are dying. I tend to believe we're all just trying to figure it out. We're all just trying to do the best that we can with what we've been given. We are in the midst of such upheaval that hasn't been seen in years, yet you all, you happy few, you continue to meet virtually. You continue to plan ad nauseum, and you try to prepare the best you can. I would say that's impressive. I was invited here tonight to continue and contribute to your discussion on what do we do now. As a former student athlete at Bensalem, I can only imagine the sense of loss for all of you who missed your 2020 season. Whether it's baseball, track and field, basketball, the more I thought about it, it became clearer and clearer the level of frustration that you must feel. The rage even at what has been lost, and the profound sadness of not being able to do what you had so meticulously prepared for. The annoyance when you consider what you had to sacrifice in order to coach to the best of your abilities. There are some of you who miss family dinners. There are some of you that cut out of your day job early. There are some of you that turned down other opportunities for the chance to coach high school sports. And now all of that was gone for the 2020 spring season. The seniors who would have won states, gone. The bench warmer who won't be able to join in with his friends anymore, gone in a flash. Friends, the first step in what we do now is for you to affirm the very real feelings that you are totally allowed to feel right now. I've grown tired of people that tell us to disregard the natural feelings on the inside when we have tried so hard to do something, and then it's taken away from us so fast. To affirm that even though the decision was out of your control, that you're still really pissed. You're pissed that you didn't finish the playoffs. You're pissed that your kids got a raw deal. And so it's important that when we affirm something, we do two things. One is we offer emotional support or encouragement. And two, we state something as a fact. We assert it strongly and publicly. You can't move on until you first deal with where you are. Not how we wish it was, not what we want it to be, but we have to be able to sit in the uncomfortable spaces of reality of what is it right now. For only when we've come to this point of clarity can we begin to move forward onto what we will be. But to deny our feelings is to stay trapped in the moment of loss forever. And although we affirm that we are here, we cannot allow ourselves to stay here. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, I have consistently tried to execute my duties as a pastor to the best of my abilities. One of my responsibilities is to preside at funerals. I can't even remember how many people I've buried over the course of this last decade. But I can tell you, since COVID-19 began, I've buried 3 parishioners in this time, and each time it hurts. Each time there is sadness and real grief. But as I share with the families at the gravesides, it will hurt. It's supposed to hurt, yet we must move forward. Your season being canceled or cut short, it hurts. It's supposed to hurt, yet you are in a position where we must move forward. We must continue in the work that you have been called to do, even amidst such sadness and grief. I can't believe that everybody on this Zoom tonight is doing what they do simply because of the great pay. No, it can't be that. It's because you've been called to work with the young people of Bensalem, and even in the midst of our loss and despair, we have a mandate to move forward. We allow what was to inform us and direct us to what we will be. Now, understand this. We never forget. We always remember. And we allow the lessons of yesteryear to lead us to the promises of tomorrow, but you gotta go at your own pace. There is never a time limit on when someone must stop grieving and move in a new direction. It's different for everyone, but there are some tips to help us along the way. Number 1 is daily affirmations. Daily affirmations. A man named Charles Duhigg, he wrote a book called The Power of Habit. And he notes how we must be intentional with our daily routines that in turn create our life habits. He notes, habits emerge without permission. Studies indicate that families usually don't intend to eat fast food on a regular basis. What happens is that a once a month pattern slowly becomes a once a week, and then a twice a week, as the cues and rewards create a habit until the kids are consuming an unhealthy amount of hamburgers and fries. The same can be said for our own mental health and the internal motivation that you need for the future. If we fail to nurture it now when it hurts the most, then we risk losing it all in the days to come. We have to grow from a place of loss and mourning, and one way is to remind yourself of your redeeming, of your positive, and your community building character traits. We have to remind ourselves of the best of us, because in the position you're in as a high school coach, the job well done and the kudos, sometimes they are few and far between. Sometimes the parents are screaming at you. Sometimes your family wants you to come home. And it's in those moments that you might be tempted to give in. You must engage in daily affirmation that reminds you of the best of you. Our psyche and our motivation is rebuilt and reinforced one brick and one affirmation at a time. Every day, in your mirror, in your car, tell yourself something that builds yourself up so that you might be able to build others. I've realized why some coaches are toxic. I've realized why some coaches are so angry. It's because they are angry with themselves and they decided to take it out on teenage kids. Well, we can't do that when the position we're in. They demand the best that we have. And in order for us to give our best, we got to feel our best. You remember what Primetime said. If you look good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. It's the same thing for what you have going on right now. We need the best versions of you. And in order to move past the hurt of a lost season, You must remind yourself who you are. Why did you start coaching in the first place? How did you get here? Why have you been successful? And you have to tell yourself the story of the best of you. Well, not only are we engaging in positive affirmations as we move forward, but we have to be able to set goals and engage in goal setting. In 1879, over 100 years ago, a man named Rube Foster, he was born in Calvert, Texas. And from a young age, he proved himself to be an able, agile, and accomplished athlete. However, as he got older, due to the racial climate of the day, he and others like him, including the great Satchel Paige and the powerful Josh Gibson and all of the like, they were excluded from Major League Baseball due to their status as African Americans. But Rube Foster realized that Negro baseball was a commodity, a community of players that played a different brand of baseball, Africanized, if you will. They were stealing bases. They were adding power, adding showmanship. And Foster knew that people would pay to see it. Here we witnessed the seeds of the Negro Baseball League being founded in 1920. There were many who considered him crazy, but Foster knew that in a segregated America, the Negro Baseball League would be able to finance entire communities, hotels, restaurants, cab drivers, jobs if they were successful. The reason that Rube Foster is in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame is because no matter the conditions, he never lost his ability to dream, his capacity to imagine more, to set goals, to keep moving in spite of resistance. What do we do now? You have to set new goals and you have to dream new dreams. You have to engage in the hard work of self-examination, and you have to see how we can grow, how we can get better, and are we preparing the best we know how? The thing that I like about sports is that you can't hide. The game will always prove who prepared the best. At Colgate University, when I was playing football on the football team, we had a saying, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. You can tell anybody what you think you did, but when you turn the tape on, the tape will prove what actually happened. In this time, friends, we must move forward. We must continue to challenge ourselves to set new goals that we might be able to attain them in the days to come. What do we do now? So we're affirming the loss that we feel in the season. We're saying to ourselves that we're going to give ourselves daily affirmations. How many times have you continued to give affirmations to the student athletes, but you've never said anything to yourself? You've always just taken whatever it is. Well, sometimes you got to build yourself up. And not only that, but we continue to set goals. Well, in our setting goals, I want us to really get this one. We have to be willing to take a risk and to learn from what happens. As we set our new goals and affirm ourselves as human beings, as coaches, as husbands, as wives, as parents, as teachers, we have to take a lesson from a corporate American titan. His name is Jack Welch. Now, Jack Welch, as the CEO of GE, obviously made a lot of money. And there are many who look at the way he made his money and have questions. But he wrote a book called Winning. And in the book called Willing, he told us that we must be willing to take risk and to learn. Because part of setting your new goals is to learn from the successes of others. Even though your season was canceled, cut short, whatever, the quarantine provides the opportunity for you to continue to hone your craft. Winning companies embrace risk-taking and learning. Even if you look at the Zoom we're on right now, when Zoom first began, it was nowhere as big as where it is now. And the market share of Zoom is being competed with when you talk about Facebook entering the game, Google entering into the game, WebEx entering the game. You have to prepare before the competition arrives. I remember Jay Wright, the head basketball coach at Villanova University. One year, his roster wasn't a traditional roster. He didn't have the defined big men to play the style of basketball that he wanted to play. So he took a risk. He put 4 guards out on the floor and watched as his team took off. You had Randy Foye, you had Mike Nardi, you had Allen Ray, you had Kyle Lowry, and they changed the scope of college basketball. Why? Because Jay Wright was willing to take a risk, to the point where many are modeling and learning from his example right now. As you take the time to hone your craft, to learn from others, to live risky and to take some chances, for time stops for no one. And so when this canceled season becomes your next season, the question is, have we done all that we can do in order to win? In closing, I'm reminded of the groundbreaking play, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. She examined the life of an African-American family that was striving for greatness, only to be thrown back down to the earth again. Her title is taken from the poem from the amazing Langston Hughes. The poem says this: what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or does it fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? In this poem, it could be as if Hughes is talking to us right now. What will you do with your season that has been deferred? Deferred meaning for a later time or to be postponed. All of your dreams for this season have been deferred, and now the ball is in your court. What will we do? Will we let the passion for our craft wane because of the current conditions? Will we remain in the valley of despair and depression? Will we lash out at those around us because in this quarantine, you just don't know? Because sometimes it's hard to let things go. My question to us tonight is, what will we do? The best part is that the choice is ours. There's a philosophical term called self-agency. And self-agency simply means it gives us the ability to choose. We have the ability to choose whether or not we're going to be kind to ourselves, if we're going to set goals for success, if we're willing to take the risk, if we're willing to sit with our disappointment. What will we do to ensure that we are on the road to victory? I don't know all the answers. That's not why Mr. Purr invited me on tonight. I believe the point of me being here tonight is encourage you to continue to look inside of you, to find the best version of you in the midst of terrible circumstances, to ensure that the student athletes of Bensalem continue to receive the top-notch education and coaching that they have received for decades. Godspeed. Keep fighting. Keep praying. And things will work out in the end. What do we do in the end? We fight. That's what we do. Amen.